time, so it's a time to start with our next presentation. Krzysztof, so many people. Are you afraid?
Yeah.
Great start. Thank you very much. Krzysztof Gonciarz.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to be talking about the digital influencer marketing. I'm going to start from the very beginning. So a few words about who I am, what I do. Right now I'm a YouTuber, but I'm a retired video game journalist. I've been doing video game journalism for about 10 years in my previous career, kind of. So I kind of see the transition between the gaming media and the YouTube scene. I saw how this was happening. I see the antagonisms between the two groups, and also how the industry changed from this side of gaming publicity. I'm a video producer. I actually live in Japan right now. I have a video production company there, and I also sometimes work as a social media and influencer relationships consultant, also for video game companies sometimes. So this is what I do, and this talk was researched based on interviewing some YouTubers, some major YouTubers too, with over 1 million subscribers, some video game developers and publishers. So I kind of took what both sides think about this subject, mixed it all, added some of my own experience and ideas. So hopefully this will help, but I have to say that there are going to be no clear answers, because this area that I'm talking about, it's kind of uncharted territory, and there's a lot of experimentation going on. But hopefully this will help. Digital influencer marketing. Digital influencer is a term for an online personality who has influence. The influence is kind of assumed, but they have online influencers. They have the cool factor, and they have the audiences, the kind of scale of audiences that gaming media never really had, which pains me to say this, but well, as a video game journalist in Poland, if you have 10,000 readers who are gonna read your reviews, you're one of the major ones. You're working in a big media outlet, and at the same time, there are YouTubers who have hundreds of thousands of people watching how they play video games. So the scale is totally different, but also the idea of how this works is also different, and it requires a totally different approach from traditional public relations in contacting gaming media or media in general. So online influencers, it's a broad term that applies to YouTubers, Instagrammers, Snapchatters, I guess is the word, live streamers on Twitch. I'm going to be mostly saying YouTubers just because the word sounds nicer to my ear, but keep in mind this is interchangeable. And this applies to all social media platforms that we have. It just so happens that YouTube is the main one for gaming, well, YouTube and Twitch. But I'm going to be saying YouTubers. Just remember to keep other platforms in mind when we talk about this stuff. Why do we even talk about it? The core of the problem here is that these people, online influencers, they have really huge, they have really huge audiences, and they, mostly in gaming, they need to play some games, obviously. So naturally, like, there comes an idea of kind of guiding this YouTube industry towards playing the games that developers and publishers would like them to play, because there's a lot to gain in publicity in this market. But we are going to consider the pros and cons and the possible misunderstandings of this industry as seen from a video game developer's perspective that I tend to see all the time. The influence element of digital influencers, as I said, it's kind of assumed. It's very difficult to measure, but just so happens that when you compare online personalities to more traditional celebrities. They have a lot more trust within their audiences. They have a lot of credibility because of their image, which is kind of, a YouTuber is a guy next door who just, let's say, plays video games or does other things that you can also do. And they seem approachable, they seem normal as opposed to celebrities, which makes them attractive for commercial endorsements and product placement, different types of brand collaborations in many industries. So video gaming is it's a very peculiar case for YouTubers, just because there's so many YouTubers just playing video games. It's the core of what they do. So it's a specific case, but influencers do have influence, and they have the cool factor, which also gaming media never really had. And again, it pains me to say this. When you think about YouTubers, they're really the stars of what they do. When you think about gaming media, the video games are on the pedestal in the model of what gaming media does. In YouTube, the YouTuber is the star. The game's not really that important, which it's an annoying thing to hear when you think about a pretty rich 16-year-old playing video games for a living and saying that they have it pretty rough because they have to keep playing new and new video games. Well, this happens. And they have authority in their audiences that also video game journalists never really had. You have some celebrities in video games, video game journalism, like, I don't know, like Jeff Keighley, Jeff Gerstmann, but not on the level that YouTubers normally are. The core of their business is being the online celebrities that are being followed by hundreds of thousands of people. And the big question when we're considering digital influencers from a marketing perspective is, does it work? This is the big question that all the professionals here, I guess, came to this lecture expecting an answer for. And the answer is there is no answer, because does it work? It depends. There are many cases when you consider sales conversion from online influencers, from buzz created on YouTube. There are many cases, and the results are all over the place. There are cases where video games got a lot of sales to follow online publicity on YouTube. There are cases where it basically did nothing despite millions of views. So the only rule is that there is no rule, and you have to set your expectations at the right level when you're thinking about working with YouTubers. You just can't expect this to bring considerable returns, which is something to factor in other activities that I'm going to be talking about. But I think when you think about working with YouTubers from a game publisher's standpoint, there's also other things to consider despite sales conversion in and of itself. There's the certain buzz and hype that online gamers create, and they kind of put your game on the map. They make it more recognizable, even if it's not, even if it doesn't convert into immediate sales that follow videos. It still sticks with communities. I've had some of the developers I've interviewed said that, for example, they had a lot of attention in gaming expos. They were showing the game on the show floor, and a lot of people who came to play the game just said that they recognize it from a YouTube channel. So it doesn't give you the immediate sales return, but it sticks. Right, so you have to maybe not only think about sales conversion, but also consider other possible upsides of getting some online publicity that way. And the cost of doing this is pretty low. I'm going to get to the money part at the very end of this talk, but I think that if you do this properly, it can be very cost effective. And also, YouTubers tend to copy each other a lot, especially in gaming. So once you kind of get the thing going on YouTube, you can expect many people who, you don't have to ask every YouTuber, you don't have to interact with every creator separately. Once you get your critical mass going, then it kind of goes from there with a snowball effect. So these are the kind of upsides of getting these people on board. But also there's a lot of cons, there's a lot of negative sides, and I think mostly the negatives, they come from unrealistic expectations, because between the video game industry and the YouTube industry, I think there's a lot of misunderstandings. So obviously, I'm sure you're aware of this genre that came to be in the last few years, which is like a YouTube-friendly video game. There's games being developed just to be watched on YouTube. And of course, it's up to debate whether or not it's a good idea to develop a video game like that. But I have one recommendation. There's a great talk about making video games easy to watch by the designer of StarCraft 2. It's an old talk, maybe from 7 years ago, from GDC in San Francisco. If you have access to their database, I highly recommend watching it. It's about designing StarCraft 2 as a game that's supposed to be watched by people as opposed to just being played. So, of course, obviously, not every game it doesn't work for every game. Some games just don't look entertaining when you think about putting them on YouTube, and you can't expect YouTubers to make fun videos about a very slowly paced, turn-based strategy game, right? And also, influencers and professionals in my industry, they tend to be unprofessional. So you have to keep in mind that sometimes, very often, you're dealing with teenagers who have huge audiences and huge egos. So it takes a lot of patience, and kind of you have to hide away your pride in dealing with this world. And it's, as I said at the beginning, it's very different from dealing with gaming media, just because the dynamics are completely different. And these people are used to being at the center of what they do. They're the stars, they're the celebrities online. So it's pretty annoying sometimes, and they tend to be, I get away with saying this as a YouTuber myself, they tend to be pretty dumb sometimes. But so you have to keep this in mind when considering doing this. Also, you're not going to get reviews, you're not going to get quantifiable scores. Many times you won't even get, even your video game's title won't be obvious sometimes from a video that somebody makes playing your video game. So there's a huge downside to investing your time in getting YouTubers to play it, even though at the end of the way you're gonna get millions of views if you do it right. You're gonna get let's say 20 million views of your video game being played by somebody on YouTube if you just accept all these downsides. And as I said, YouTubers are in the center, and you have to remember that. There's also this, it's a difficult concept really, but I do think that video games and YouTubers, they kind of compete with each other. It's just, in modern internet, people, the most expensive resource is time. So, and both YouTubers and video games, they just take time from the audiences. So sometimes you have cases like highly narrative video games that, if they're being played by YouTubers, the sales, it's not even not converting into sales, it's hitting the sales. So it's people would actually prefer watching a video game being finished online rather than playing it themselves. So when you're getting yourself into that, you have to really consider if you do want that. Especially narrative video games, as I said, they're the one who get hurt the most. And the video games that are more the video games that are the most successful in this sense are the video games where you watch somebody play it, but at the same time you kind of want to have your own version of the story, which it's not a surprise that this entire trend basically started with Minecraft, right? So you have Minecraft. It's successful in both senses, right? People buy Minecraft because they want to do their own thing in the video game, but also they watch it so that they see what other people do. So this is a perfect example of how this can work, but a pretty unrealistic example too. And also there's a case of Nintendo I think Nintendo just blocked YouTubers at some point. They just said they don't want their video games being played on YouTube. I'm not sure where this stands now, but I remember about 2 years ago that was the case. You couldn't do Let's Play videos of Nintendo games just because they didn't want you to. Which, there's a certain level of dignity in that, right? The thing that I would like to explain is the mindset of a YouTuber. So I'm guessing if you're a video game developer, publisher, you might not realize what they want. And what they want really is good content. They're very content oriented and they want to do entertainment for their audiences. They want views, they want comments, they want engaged audiences. And this does not necessarily mean they want to play good video games. The popular YouTubers, they're, for example, in Poland, some of the top YouTubers, they play video games not based on how they like them. They play video games that click with their audiences. And this is a very important factor. And this is something that distinguishes YouTubers from gaming media, basically. Because with the media, if the media gets hyped up for a video game, they're just gonna love it, write about it, and you can do a lot of PR work just giving them exclusives about a hyped up video game, and they're just gonna be happy for it. YouTubers don't really care about that, and they don't care. So this is why there's an asterisk, because they're mostly gamers, so they care about good games, but not in the sense of playing good games on YouTube. Just because it's not necessarily that the online audiences, they want to watch good video games being played. They just want to see entertainment. So sometimes the games that are funny, full of like very buggy, when you go to PewDiePie's channel, the biggest YouTuber in the world, what he plays, it's a very like peculiar choice of video games, and he himself says that the games he plays, he feels trapped in the sense of he feels trapped as a gamer, that he doesn't get to just choose whatever he wants to play, and when he chooses to post videos about a video game that he's excited about, the audiences kind of they criticize them for it, because they would just like him to keep playing Happy Wheels and stuff. And let's say he made a series of videos about The Last Guardian, which was, well, the numbers weren't as good as his channel should do. So so this is just something to keep in mind as a developer. You can't really win YouTubers over by having a good video game and convince them you should play it because it's good. The upside of that is that you don't have to have a good video game in the first place to get them to play it, right? And also, they're very busy, they're unfocused. I know this from my own example. I don't do much work in video game. My YouTube is not about video games at all, but as a YouTuber who has a certain level of social media scale, you get really a lot of business offers and people wanting to kind of get 5 minutes of your time, and at some point you're just blocking things out. So it takes some skill and networking effort to get into somebody's head, because of course there are YouTubers who are actively looking for good video games and they want to show their audiences some curious things, but it's difficult to get through the first layer of kind of informational noise that surrounds you as a YouTuber. So the next part, I'm going to talk about how to explain, how to approach influencers. And for this part, I asked basically influencers for their opinions, which is funny because it's like asking somebody, how can somebody convince you to let them in, to let them into your head. The first stage I would recommend doing, researching YouTubers. You have to know who to reach out to, obviously. There's a very good tool called Social Blade. I'm sure many of you know it. It's like, I don't know how to call it. It's like a social media platform that's getting all the data from YouTube, and you can just, it makes it into their own database, and you can ask questions to this database. They have pretty good function of showing you top 100 YouTubers by country. So you can use it to research different markets. And please remember that YouTube is just, it's not just the English-speaking YouTubers, because many companies make this mistake and they disregard many markets that way. And when going on Social Blade, also please remember that YouTube markets in different countries, they tend to be very diversified. So for example, Poland is a very peculiar case because in Poland, the CPRs, the marketing, the advertising revenue from YouTube itself, it's very low, but YouTubers in Poland are quite professional in doing brand endorsements and product placements, stuff like that. Poland is very peculiar on the international scale of YouTube's. So you just have to keep in mind the standards of a given country. It's a lot of research to do, unfortunately. The big question when reaching out to YouTubers is, should you get gamers or should you get lifestyle YouTubers? And by lifestyle, in this context, I mean basically everybody who's not doing video games. So you can just as well, if you have a product that's not obviously mismatched, you can just as well reach out to, say, makeup YouTubers, right? It still works. They have a lot of social media reach, and sometimes you can get good conversion from surprising connections like that too. Because gamers, and I'm going to explain this mostly in the money part later, gamers are a very specific case for video game publishers, because gaming is the core of what they do. So when you contact a YouTuber, the direct line of contact will most likely not be possible. You're not going to reach out directly to him. You can try, YouTube has a function of giving you a business email, which sometimes works, but most YouTubers I actually know, they just put in a very generic email address there, like business@nickname.com, and they don't really check it, so don't expect good results from that. However, if you do get somebody's email address, just try to make it as streamlined as possible. I'm going to give an example. You get a lot of, as a YouTuber, you get a lot of offers, like, would you like to play our video game? If you want the key for a digital copy, we'll be happy to send it over. And this email just requires one more action from you, which is responding and saying, I want the key. So as long as you have a platform that enables you to generate keys, as many keys as you want, just send the keys over and just have people use them straight away. It simplifies stuff. Every step that you're making a YouTuber go through to play your game is going to eliminate a certain percentage of people you want to work with and that you would like to play your game on YouTube. So you just have to make it as user-friendly as possible and as easy and fast as possible. A surprising number of YouTubers I asked about it told me that they are subscribed to Facebook groups about video game development, which, well, I'm not, and I didn't see that coming. But there's a certain number of creators who are just like kind of kind of leaning towards video game developer industry. So I'm sure you are present on such groups. Just remember, sometimes there's professional YouTubers lurking in there, looking for video games. So if you post or offer to give away keys, you might just get lucky. And a very good way of making contact with YouTubers is just having official social media accounts on all platforms. It sounds simple, but many small companies don't have it. So if you have an official Facebook profile for your company or an official YouTube channel, just make sure to log into it and comment on somebody's videos or try to get their attention. When dealing with influencers, you have to remember there's a lot of pride and vanity involved in what they do. So, for example, if you comment on their video saying you might get, would you like to play our game? We'll be happy to give you a key. I would say he's likely to respond just because the audiences will see that he did. So if he responds in the comments section saying, "Yeah, sure, I'm always happy to play good video games," that makes him look good, and you're getting some first contact established. And in dealing with influencers, I would say triggering reciprocity is very important. So doing things in advance, just giving something away and hoping they would return the favor. It's much better than trying to establish a relationship as a business deal, because, as I'm saying, these guys have a lot going on and a lot of things on their plates, and they will probably not have time or the will of doing a full-blown like promotional conversation with you. And when you are trying to get some influencers to play video games on their channels, just these are just a few things to avoid. As I said before, don't expect to get direct sales from that, because it just doesn't work like that. A YouTuber can't be seen as a person who sells your video game for a cut, and sometimes it looks like that, right? So if you, for example, if you tell a YouTuber to put a link to Steam, well, they don't get a cut, but the audiences doesn't know it. The audiences don't know it. YouTubers are being judged for doing any kind of commercial endorsements every single time, and there's a certain skill and magic related to doing commercial endorsements as a YouTuber and not getting hated for it. So you have to keep in mind that these guys have to be careful too, and they have their own problems when doing business deals, and they have a very they have to maneuver their own PR game in a very specific, precise way. So just don't expect sales, and don't try to shove it down anybody's throat, because it's just not going to work. As I'm saying, I'm not here to convince you. I mean, this all sounds kind of sad, but I'm not here to convince you that digital influencers, they're gonna just rock your world and sell your video game and you're gonna get millions from it. I'm just laying down the options and making sure that you look at it realistically. It's very important not to interfere with people's content. The core of what YouTubers do is just they make their own videos. They want their videos to be based on their own authorship, and the perfect situation is just you give the video game and basically let them do whatever they want, accept any type of I don't know, criticism, whatever. They're gonna laugh at your video game. Just take it, and don't expect them to like it. What you're trying to get from it is basically exposure. You're not trying to get praise, or like I said before, any quantifiable scores, reviews, stuff like you would expect from gaming media. So it requires a completely different set of expectations, and this last tip, I put an asterisk in it because I would say it's a rule, but of course there are huge exceptions. Partner networks called MCNs MCN stands for multi-channel network. They're very business oriented. So if you tried going through an MCN to reach a certain YouTubers, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get just filtered out because you're not bringing money to the table, unless you are, in which case you might consider doing that. But I'm gonna get to that in a moment. So whenever you can, just try to get as close to the guy as possible. Some bigger YouTubers have their own manager, agent, what you might call it. So that might be a good idea, but an MCN, a network, is something slightly different. And these companies are only they're only built to manage money and significant business deals. So I think it's a waste of time, unless they have a clearly stated some kind of press relationships email address, which says that they're going to be serving cases, like getting YouTubers to play your games. But it doesn't really happen. So, just something to remember. And when you think about, let's say you reached out to a YouTuber, he's interested, he sees potential in doing videos about your video game. Notice that I'm not saying he likes your video game, because I want to emphasize that this is not the same. He doesn't have to like your video game to want to play it. He'll just see that this might give him views, his audience might like it. So always, whatever you do, always remember that they want interesting content for their viewers, which can mean many different things. And unfortunately, again, most of the ideas that companies come up with are kind of a waste of time. Mostly, I put a sad face next to events and office tours, because this is 99% of the time this is not effective. It's kind of a waste of time for both sides to be inviting YouTubers to things, unless you have a very strong IP, or I don't know. I'm basically addressing this to small companies, if it's not clear by now. If you're Blizzard, then probably, you can invite YouTubers to your event, but most of you are not Blizzard, right? Yeah, and when you decide, okay, I'll say this one later. So these are just ideas that people do, right? You can give keys. You can send a YouTuber keys. You can comment on your own. You can go to their comments section and give away keys to their audiences, which is always a plus. It's a nice thing. Not many companies do that, but it's always good. Keep in mind, I think Facebook filters out posts like that, unless they're authorized by the owner of the Facebook page. Remember to interact with the audience. If let's say you get a YouTuber to play your video game, you can always be active in the comments section from your official profile. Kind of make yourself be seen as a cool company that likes YouTubers, likes working with them. You don't have to be honest in it, even if you don't like I mean, it's PR, right? So who are we kidding? Yeah, and a specific thing that some companies do, and sometimes they bother doing that, is making personalized assets for YouTubers, which is I'm gonna just show you a funny example. This is something one company made for me some time ago. It's like me. They made me into a character. I have this show in Poland that's the title translates to Ask the Barrel. So they made a barrel. I mean, I'm just showing this as an example. If you make something like this for a significant YouTuber, right, then if they like it, they're just gonna share it. Like, they don't have, most of the time they're not very strict about what they're allowed to share on their Facebook page or something. So if you make something that's cute for them or makes them seem relevant, YouTubers have this, as I said, they're very proud. They have a lot of vanity. If you just stroke their ego in the right way, they are likely to share the information about your video game. And this was made by a company that I think at the time they were trying to get through Steam Greenlight. And I think it got me. I mean, I'm sure I helped, but I don't know if they made this before or after. Well, never mind. So the big question for the very end is, should you pay for it? Should you invest money? And as a YouTuber, I should say yes, right? Because that would mean that I should advertise for more money coming from the video game industry into YouTube industry. But with that said, I'm going to say no. You probably shouldn't pay gaming YouTubers for playing video games, because it creates a lot of different problems that you have to consider. So this is why I made this distinction here. So gaming influencers, probably no, and lifestyle influencers, so everything except gaming, probably yes, or considering that you might. And the difference is, if you have a gamer YouTuber and they're playing games for a living and their audiences expect them to be playing video games, it makes them look very insincere when they're getting paid for playing video games. And well, the ethics of YouTube industry, they're somehow iffy at best. So many YouTubers don't put disclosures about endorsements in their videos, but I always think they should, and I am advocating for being transparent about this stuff. So assuming you're dealing with a YouTuber that's kind of honest with his audience, if he's gonna put a thingy on the video that says, basically, I'm playing this video game for money, it's gonna hit the conversion rate of your video game, and it's gonna hit his channel. It's just weird in the case of gaming YouTubers. If you're gonna pay a makeup YouTuber to show a video game that's very casual and fits her audience, it's probably gonna work. She's probably not going to get too hated for doing that, because this way you're kind of, I mean, YouTubers do commercial endorsements all the time. It's just they don't normally do it with the industry that they're kind of involved in, as gamers are involved with video games. So that's why I would recommend looking for other options other than gamers if you want to put in some money and get some sponsored content on YouTube. But in this direction, if you're considering this, you have to remember you're not going to get Let's Play videos, right? Because I mean, unless you find a very specific person, you have to get more creative than that. When it comes to gamers, also another thing to consider is that YouTubers are making a lot of money these days, the major ones. And I think video game industry, in the form of small companies, small developers and publishers, you can't really compete with that money-wise, because the price points of YouTubers, they're built for companies like Coca-Cola, right? In Poland, we have some of the companies that put the most money in YouTube industry. They're like Play, the mobile operator, Coca-Cola, big companies. And for most YouTubers, you're just a client, right? They're not fans of the industry. They're not, they don't really care that this is a video game. So unless you get under their skin in many other ways, they're just going to price you as they price everything else, which is a huge hurdle to jump over. And I would say it's not worth it. So whenever you can, just don't put money in gamer YouTubers. So many people are going to hate me for saying that, but I really do believe this is the right direction. Just try to limit your spending. If you're a small company, just don't spend money that way. When you think about Polish YouTube industry, I think only big companies ever spent considerable money on YouTube. Companies like Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, sometimes they get YouTubers to promote some stuff, but it's a slightly different case than having a small video game and just trying to get people interested. Yeah, and there's a new thing that yesterday I was talking to one developer here, and he brought it up that YouTube introduced this new checkbox. When you upload a video to YouTube, there's a checkbox that says this video includes paid product endorsement, and there's also. I'm not actually sure. This is something I do and I should know it, but with YouTube's algorithms, you kind of never know how this works. It's said that it can limit the organic reach of a video. So if you have a honest enough YouTuber to put a disclosure and use the checkbox saying that this video is paid for, it might hit the views of the video. It doesn't necessarily have to, but it's ambiguous. With YouTube's algorithms, it's ambiguous. So I'm saying this as just another argument for doing it free as often as possible. Because not only if you pay the money, then you're gonna have to, pay the money, but also it might bring smaller results just because YouTube itself doesn't really like commercial endorsements where they don't get a cut. Whoops. What happened? Yeah. Okay. So that's it from me. I hope I shed some light into influencers, and we have some time for questions. So I'll be happy to take some, or maybe somebody has a thought about the subject they would like to share. So please, let's just talk about it for the remainder.
Any questions right now? I don't see.
There's
okay.
one.
Okay, hi. How about, because you are talking about giving the key and stuff, how we can convince a YouTuber to play a free-to-play game? Except like this special assets or, I don't know, some bonuses.
Well, in this case you have, you're right, it is difficult, because in this case you're not even giving a free copy of the video game, right? So, honestly, it's even more difficult, I think. I guess doing PR work, trying to get in touch with them and trying to get them interested in the video game is the only thing that comes to my mind, really. But with free-to-play, well, it's a pickle. I don't have a ready answer for that. Maybe somebody has one and would like to share, but it is difficult. Well, keep in mind that a free copy of a video game, for most YouTubers, it's not like they can't afford to buy video games. It's just an act of goodwill and a gesture. YouTubers don't really see it as actual value. I mean, it sounds bad, but I mean, it's not just about the price of the video game. It's just about getting something for free and seeing that somebody wants you to play the game, right? I don't know. Maybe you have some in-game currency, right? You can just give them some premium account, stuff like that, right?
Okay, thank you.
Hi, a quick question. With our previous project, we have a problem like lots of YouTubers contacted us and asked for free keys, usually multiple Steam keys, because they want to give some free on their channel or something like that. And basically we gave like lots of keys, like more than 100. And it didn't resulted really in many videos, but it did resulted in key resales. So basically few people were clearly cheating. And right now we receive for another game like at least one key request from YouTuber per day, and we don't have idea how we could potentially verify if someone who mails us is even a real YouTuber. I mean, everyone can post.
Do they give you like an address of a YouTube channel, stuff like that?
Yep, but...
So they lie about it?
Is there any way, if, I mean, I could pretend that I'm someone, I can just write down that I'm from Moldavia, I have like 500,000.
I mean, technically, you can pretend, right? There is no link between an email address and a YouTube
Exactly.
channel, right? So there's no sure way to verify it.
Mhm.
Actually, to contact you with their YouTube messaging system.
Yeah. Well, I think there are no messages on YouTube anymore, right? Or didn't they remove it at some point? Oh, there are. Okay.
Hello. I mean, you have like a few scammers on YouTube that they are begging for a few keys.
Yeah.
So, for us as a game developers, like indie developers, it's like an additional work to do because you have like trace every channel. You have to, have some Excel, copy every channel address them because the scammers, for example, they usually ask for 2-3 keys, for example. Always, they, highlight that the, request is genuine, so everything is fine. But, after a few weeks, they email you again with the same path for the channel, I mean the address, but they change, the email address and they change the, the name of the channel. So you have to like keep the eye on that because I sent like about 20, keys. Since I realized that, oh, fuck it, it's like this scammer shop, so I don't like it. So, yeah.
I mean, this is the part, I was saying this industry is being unprofessional, right? So, I mean, there is no sure way of getting yourself safe from scammers, right? So I don't really have an answer to that, but I don't know, just maybe limit the number of keys you're giving out, right?
The last
Like per
person, okay.
I want to say the reason the way we solved it was just to ignore emails with bad syntax, and that solved the problem.
That helps.
I actually do have a question. When it comes to reaching out to YouTubers and press in general, when you don't get a reply, what is the correct etiquette here for contacting them again?
I mean, if you want to be polite, you want to leave it at that, but maybe you shouldn't be polite, right? I mean, you want to get something done.
I want to be effective, so I want sort of I want to contact them again, but I'm not sure the sort of amount of time or the context that would make sense for them to be contacted again without them at all feeling like they're being, hassled or
I think if they're not responding, I mean, there's many different scenarios of why they didn't respond. They could have not seen the email in the first place. They could have skimmed over it and decided they don't want to do it, or just forgot that they had an inquiry like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about repeating the message. I mean, I wouldn't mind myself. So I'm saying this as myself. I wouldn't mind. I kind of respect companies that keep banging, coming back until they get a result. There is something, there's valor in it.
Okay, so thank you very much. We are out of time. Krzysztof, thank you.
Thank you.